Welcome to the Beyond the Leash podcast, your number one source for everything canine. Eric Straetmans and Melissa Riley got you covered on the latest training tips, techniques, and more. No clicker training bullshit, constantly bribing with treats. Just balanced dog training that works. Now, here's your hosts, Eric and Melissa.
And hello. Here with the very lovely and very talented Melissa Riley.
Hey, everyone.
As always. Welcome to podcast number 3. This is number 3. I think we're getting better at this each and every time, yeah?
I think so.
We don't even listen to the radio in our own cars anymore. We listen to our own podcast like a couple of losers. So let me get this set so I can have them if need be. So again, this is the third one. And we the first two, we talked about potty training, and then we talked about nipping. We're going to get a little off track of the actual training techniques today. And today's topic is going to be a little different. It's going to be how did Eric become a dog trainer? Why? What brought him into the direction of being a dog trainer? Mm-hmm. And if anybody out there is thinking about being a dog trainer, how would you go about becoming that, or where would your steps be? Yeah. And a little bit of how me and Melissa met.
It's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of dreading this one a little bit because I kind of keep it a secret. I've said it a few times. I said it on the Dave McMahon radio show, and he kind of threw it at me on, I didn't know what to say. I'm like, you want the real story, or am I saying the bullshit story?
Yeah.
First off, that's what we're going to talk about first, yeah?
Yeah, let's get into it.
How did Eric become a dog trainer? Again, when I said to Dave McMahon, when he asked me, I said, you want the bullshit story? Because most people, I tell the bullshit story. The bullshit story isn't really lying. It's just
keeping it PG-13.
Keeping it PG-13. And I know you're thinking, why would it be R-rated for it to become?
How is this related to dogs?
So when we say keeping it PG-rated, and I say the bullshit story, on the website it says Eric worked in a bar, blah, 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 but it doesn't go into many details. So
let's talk about, first of all, where are you from, Eric?
Originally born and raised in Hamilton, and the really dog training thing started, and I always had an interest in dogs even when I was a kid, but the dog training really started in Niagara Falls. And I moved to Niagara Falls probably when I was about 26.
What brought you into that? Like, did you have a dog that you were interested in training yourself? Is that what kind of?
Well, let's go over that first. First off, I was better and I had no education that's organized at all. I had zero of that, but I had dogs since I was like 4 years old, begging my mom for dogs. Half the times I would find them on the street and she wouldn't let me keep them. I would cry. She would find the original owner. I don't know. Back in the 70s, dogs roamed the streets a little more.
Yeah, more stray dogs.
Yeah. So I was always interested in dogs, and I had my own dogs, and I did a lot of training and just learning from, at the time, books, and then later on in life, the internet, like most people do. But I remember reading dog training books when I was just a child. And I had no actual education or actual, I don't know.
Formal training.
Formal, that's the word I was looking for. No formal training at all. But I was better than your average Joe.
You had like a natural, what do they call that? Some people are just like naturally inclined, or they're just good at something.
I don't want to say gifted. I don't like that word, but maybe a little gifted with the dogs. I don't know.
Eric would argue that. I know you always argue that, and you're like, listen, I'm no different from you. There's no magic in my fingers, but we would all disagree with that.
I always say it's the technique more than anything.
Well, from witnessing firsthand, when you take that leash with the dog, there's just like an instant respect. The dog always looks up at you and is like, whoa.
But that just comes from experience. That's nothing special inbred in me, I don't think.
I don't know. I think
but anyway,
a little bit of magic.
Let's go to my life in Niagara Falls. Wait, Melissa said, we should talk about your life because she loves the story, blah, blah, blah. But I said, you know what? That's a podcast all on its own, so we're not going to get into that.
That's more dealing with like your childhood and things that you've overcome.
Yeah, especially recently.
Which, totally could be like a whole other show.
A whole podcast on its own.
But let's talk about, so you're a young adult, you find yourself in Niagara Falls.
Okay, first off, before we even get there, before I was a dog trainer, and I used to be a bit of a bodybuilder in my teens and 20s. And when you're in your teens and 20s and you're a bodybuilder, you find yourself as a bouncer.
Right.
A little bit different times back then, too. The bouncers were a little bit more than they are now.
A little bit more hands-on.
Yeah, hands-on is a good word. Sometimes overbearing hands-on. But it was a different age. But I found myself as a very young, probably before I was allowed to drink, I found myself working in strip clubs at 18. So I have a little bit of a history there.
Right.
And that's why I went to Niagara Falls, because Niagara Falls is like the Vegas of Canada, and there's a
lot of strip clubs.
Well, not anymore, but and that at the time, I think it was 1989, 90. No, wait, can't be. That was too early. No, and more like 98 when I found myself somewhere around there, because I went out there to take employment at a strip club.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm allowed to say things on here. There's no copyright, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. But I ended up working at a strip club out there named Seductions.
Right.
Right beside the popular Sundowner. And it was, that was where I found myself. And I was working there as a doorman for a while. But I went there with the intention, because I had years experience before, to become a manager. And they made me assistant manager right away. And then I ended up being the head honcho at that bar underneath the owner. So that's my life. There's a little bit of, you got a story. Yeah, I got a history, and some of it's not that great.
Yeah, that's right.
And some of it I had to overcome, and some of it was just learning experience. But I find myself working in the strip club, and this has to be in the height of the lap dance era when that first came in.
And to being right on the border there, you guys must have attracted a lot of Americans.
Oh, yes. These two bars, they both had one on a Friday night. One would have 120 girls, and we would have 105 girls.
Yeah.
So it was absolutely bizarre, and most of it was the Americans coming over.
Right.
Because on the American clubs, again, this isn't dog training at all, but in American clubs, in New York at least, the two rules are you can be completely naked, but you can't have alcohol. Or you can have alcohol, but they have to have the pasties and the G-strings on. They weren't. I don't know I don't know what that rule is. I don't even know if it's still there, but it was like that at the time. So You get a lot of Americans coming over because you can have both full nudity and whatever. But that's not the point. The point is, here's the story. And honest to God, it was strippers that made me become the dog trainer I am today. It was solely because of one particular stripper, but strippers in general. Again,
so for people who don't know, like what happens there very commonly?
Well, first off, strippers. At the time, Paris Hilton was popular.
Yeah.
And she had her little chihuahuas, and they all wanted to be Paris Hilton. They all wanted these little dogs. And these girls, I don't know if you, like a lot of people listening to this aren't going to know this, but they're almost like nomads.
Transient.
Yeah. They don't have a home. They're living city to city, hotel room to hotel room. And that's kind of their life. They travel because they make a lot of money, and then I guess customers lose interest, so they move to Toronto for a little while, and then then they're in Montreal and Ottawa, and they move around a lot of these girls. And anyway, I'm there, and this is the height of lap dancing. The height had to be about. Remember, I went to Niagara Falls in about 98, so this is about 2000, yeah, somewhere around there, 2001, 2002, somewhere in that area. And lap dancing at the time just hit. And these girls went from making $5 and $10 dances to $20 plus in the back. Mm-hmm. We won't get into that too much. But these girls were going home on a shift for $2,000.
Right.
Easy, $2,000. That was pretty much a going night for a girl back then. I make $2,000. And all these girls would get dogs, and it kind of got popular because I had a couple dogs, and I bring them to the school, and I do some little tricks and stuff. Nothing like what we do now.
You bring them to the club with you.
Yes, the club. Yeah. What did I say?
School.
Oh, school. So this is the school. See, I'm a different person now.
He's reformed.
I'm reformed. So I'd bring them to the club and show them off. Whatever. They weren't that great, but they were better than most people's dogs.
Yeah.
Again, this was just stuff I learned from myself, being self-taught, just books, internet stuff. And it got known that I had these pretty cool dogs, and they were better behaved. Yeah, got around in the staff, got around with some customers, blah, 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 blah. And I had this girl come up to me. And I didn't even really know her that well. And she was like, Eric, I heard you're really, really good with dogs. I go, yeah, kind of, okay. And she goes, can you help me? I got this dog that I have. And I think she brought the dog to the club one night, just a little terrier type.
Yeah.
Again, a Paris Hilton purse dog. They put bows in their hair, pick them up all day, walk around with them as a status symbol more than anything else. So she comes up to me and she goes, oh, I'm getting kicked in the little motel rooms on Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls, for those that are familiar. She goes, oh, they let me have dog. They said I could have the dog, but the dog is so bad with potty training. They're kicking me out because they say they're coming in to clean the room and it smells like urine. Yeah, the whole place smells like urine and they're giving me crap. She goes, can you help me? Please help me potty train the dog. I go, no. I'm like, first off, I don't even know you. I don't care. Post break your own dog. I'm too busy doing stuff.
Right.
And at the time, I had a little bit of a bad history, like we said. And there was an after hours there, and she kept every shift. She'd come, please. I go, no, I got better things to do with my life than help you with your effing dog.
Yeah,
I'm not going to help you with your effing dog. Forget it. And then I remember one day it was like a weekend night, and there was a place called Insomnia, which was an after hours club. And this girl it was Friday or Saturday.
Sounds like nothing good happens.
Yeah, there's nothing good happens at Insomnia at all. And then there was that one went till 6, and then there was another one that kept going.
Oh my God!
St. Paul, I think it was. They didn't even just had an address. People called it, we're going to St. Paul, but whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, this girl was there, not with me, but I was with my friends, and she was there the whole night. And it's like 6 a.m, and she comes over and she's bugging me again about helping her train her dog. Oh, the dog's peeing. It's still peeing. I need help. And I'm like, idiot. You got to work last night at 6. You worked, and I think the bars were only open till 1 back then. I'm not sure. Maybe wrong on that, but whatever. I go, you worked here till 1 o'clock, and then I saw your car. You guys, we all came here to Insomnia, and you've been here till 6 a.m. That dog's been home alone for 12 hours. Of course the fucking thing is shitting and pissing in the room. What's wrong with you? And then she says, if you come over to my house for one night, just a few hours, and help me out, I will give you $500.
That sounds like an indecent proposal. Beginning of a movie.
Well, I mean, $500, that's not bad for just...
So we'll just, as a nickname, we'll call you Demi Moore.
So she offers me $500. I'll give you $500 to come over one night. I go, which night? When would you like me there?
Yeah.
Immediately.
I'm there.
Immediately. So, and here's the funny thing. It was one of those Lundy Lane motel, pretty cheesy, $40, $60 night at the time. Whatever. Not much to it. Just a room with a bed and a bathroom and maybe a TV. That was it. And I go over to her place and we open the door, and literally her solution, when I opened this door, the entire floor was covered in newspaper. Like carpeted in newspaper. Yeah. And when the dog would have a pee or poo, she'd just pick up that piece, put it in put another piece down. That was her solution. And I said to her, I go, why don't you put this dog in a crate? She goes, again, like we talked about on the first one, she didn't like crates. She didn't want her baby, her little angel in a crate. I go, well, this dog's going to continue to pee in here all day long, nonstop. I go, do you ever, and it was a young dog too. It wasn't very old. It was like 6-7 months.
Probably bladder the size of a grape.
And I said, you're at a shift for 8 hours. You're the only one in here. Do you have a friend come over and let the dog out, for God's sake? This dog can't hold it for your whole 8-hour shift. There's no way. And the place did kind of reek a little bit of urine when I walked in. So, again, it was $500. And I showed her crate training. I said, you got to have a crate. We put her in a crate. I gave her a schedule, take this dog out. I said, let's get these newspaper out of here. And I explained, the things we said on week 1. And maybe not all of them because I didn't know them all then. But I explained, you got water down. Let's take the water away and only give certain times. And when you're on a shift, I go, you just paid me $500. Pay some girl that's in this motel that you know and you can trust. Pay her $50 to come here and let the dog out and take the dog for a little walk around the motel grass there. Not a big deal. Whatever. You make $2,000 a day, do that. And we sat there maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours, where I was explaining all this stuff to her. And that was it. And we left, and that was the end of that. And
She
then
had success with that?
well, that's the thing. And then as she came to work, she goes, "Oh, this is starting to work. I'm so happy. Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I made drinks or whatever every night. And after about 2 weeks, she goes, "I think she's completely housebroken now. This is so amazing. Thank you, thank you, thank you."
Wow.
So whatever, a week or two goes by, and I think that's the end of it. And all of a sudden, my phone rings. No, it wasn't. It was the work phone. It wasn't my phone, and the DJ's like, Eric, line one. I'm just thinking it's some kind of business or something. I pick up the phone. Hi, I can't even remember her name anymore. Yeah, I'm her Destiny's friend, blah, blah, blah. I work next door. And she goes, I heard you really helped her with her dog. And I was like, yeah, sort of. And she said, well, I got this German Shepherd, and I can't even walk the dog. Can you help me? Because he's so big, and he's so powerful, and he lives in... and I go, first I said no. And then she said, I heard she gave you $500. I'll give you $500 to come over for one night, too.
Wow.
It's like, okay, again, I'm free. Let's go. And I went over there and showed her a little bit of the healing stuff that I knew at the time, not like I knew now, but it was better than she was doing. Remember, this is 26 years ago, something like that. And then I just became, in Niagara Falls, that guy at the strip club that helps strippers with their dogs.
Yeah.
I was getting multiple, like at least 3 or 4 a month. People were calling me. Again, there's just in one night, there's 230 dancers in those 2 parking lots.
Right.
And ironically, for anybody that knows the school, I knew the owners next door, which was Sundowner. And then I just leased this place for 10 years. I worked with them beside those MFs for 10 years. And I just ran into one of the sons of the Verdans. And I said, God damn, I worked beside you for 10 years. Now my dog school's beside your other club for 10 fucking years.
Yeah.
I can't get away from you assholes.
So we're back beside a strip club. Like our school just happens to be beside a strip club.
But anyway, to get back to where we were. So I start getting all these calls repetitively for helping these dancers' dogs, and they're all giving me major money. And sometimes it was more than one lesson. It was multiple lessons, and they're giving me this. Remember, these girls are making tons of dough, and most of them are giving it to a pimp anyway. So some of the pimps wanted me. hey, give that guy some money. We want him here to help, because they all had pit bulls and stuff, and all that crap.
So you were enjoying it, like the instruction?
Well, here's the thing. At the time, I was making pretty damn good money in a bar, and what better for a 20-year-old man in his 20s?
Yeah.
To work in a strip club where he's got free reign and does whatever. It was a pretty good life, and I was making pretty good money.
Right.
But I was enjoying the money I was making helping people with their dogs.
Right.
Better. I was getting more, what's the word I'm looking
drawn
for?
towards that.
More
fulfilled,
more fulfillment. It was more enjoyable. I enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
Because the people, the respect they gave you after, just because they're so happy that you helped them with their dog. That was
and not
the best.
only for their lives, but for the dog's life, because so many dogs, when people run into problems like that, a lot of the times the solution is to
I miss something I always say when I tell these stories. When people the dancers used to come up to me and say, "Oh, I heard you're good with dogs. I'm getting a puppy this week. I'm getting a puppy." I go, "Don't fucking get a puppy." And they look at me like, why not? All offended. I go, you don't know where you're going to live in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
How are you going to be with this puppy for the next 15 years possibly?
Right.
Don't get a puppy. Wait till you're settled.
Yeah.
Wait till you're done, you dummy. But that was another part of it. So anyway, I'm starting to make pretty good money doing this on the side as a side hustle. And again, enjoying myself way more.
So then how did it transition from something that you were doing?
Well, that's what I thought. I thought, why don't I open this? I don't even know how I was going to do it at the time, if I was going to be an in-home trainer or whatever, because that's kind of what it was.
Mobile.
Mobile trainer. Or just even on the side. I never thought it would develop to this, but I go, if I'm going to do this, I better get some backing behind me.
Right.
So in Niagara Falls, I was lucky to find a man, Dave McMahon in Niagara Falls, Dave McMahon Dog Training Academy.
Shout out to Dave.
We were on his radio show 6 months ago, something like that.
Was it that long ago?
Maybe
already?
4 or 6, something like that. It was spring, I think.
I don't even.
Yeah, it was about 6 months ago. Yeah,
ago.
it was a while ago. Maybe I'm wrong, but whatever. It wasn't that long ago. And this man brings on apprentices and teaches them how to be a dog trainer. So I gave him a shout, and talked it over a little bit. And I took his course to become a dog trainer. And then that was it. That was the end of the story. It just developed from there.
So, and let's talk about your first ever dog school that you had and a little bit about,
Well, first off, Dave McMahon has agreed. We just got to get a right time to get him up here in the studio because I don't want him on the phone. He's my mentor. He was the one that got me into this. We're gonna.
Want him live.
He's gonna be.
Person.
Yeah, he's gonna be one of the guests on one of these very, very shortly. He said November, so hopefully we're gonna aim for. But just because we recorded in November, maybe we not put it out, whatever. But he's gonna be on the show. That's the whole point. So. What was your last question?
School, and also because I know you were married to your first wife. Yep. So talk a little bit about that partnership.
Well,
you can give us the Coles
You almost put me on a spot. Like,
I love to watch
my
you
fiance.
squirm.
My first wife was obviously a dancer because that's kind of, you're in that business, you can't find anything else.
Yeah.
And she was very interested in dogs. That's probably part of the connection. And she wanted to become a groomer. So we sent her to school with an apprentice under a groomer there, just about the same time I was doing it.
Right.
So I was apprenticing to become a dog trainer and she was apprenticing to become a groomer. And when we were done, we opened up a little tiny shop.
Sounds like a match made in heaven.
Yeah, and not really. I think it was hell more, but the dogs were maybe the only thing that were the good point of it.
Yeah.
So we were doing that for a while and it was very hard because, I had the Dave McMahon graduate on my walls. I had the diploma at the front door.
At this point, though, did you still kind of have one foot into the club industry? Like, had you fully exited from that?
I got completely out.
Oh, wow.
At one point, I got completely out. And, I wasn't making, and between the two of us with the two businesses, we were doing okay.
Yeah.
And we already had a house that was bought, not bought and paid for, but it was a few years in, so we were doing okay. But I found it very, very hard to compete with my mentor that taught me because I'm literally just down the street.
Right.
Who's going to go to the kid that's been doing it for 5 months when the guy that taught him and has been doing it for 20 years is literally 10 minutes down the road?
And just a side note, like Niagara Falls, most of us have been there who live in Ontario, even Canada. It's a tourist attraction. But you don't realize in terms of people who actually live there, it's quite a small town.
It's very small. But even here, I tell the apprentices, the people that hopefully they're like another apprentice I have, Jen Broadbent, who has her own training school in Burlington. That's far enough away from me that you really could build from that area.
Right.
Didn't have to worry about the competition from Eric, which a lot of her methods are just being taken from me. And hopefully she's developing her own now.
Yeah.
But she's going to be a guest too as well soon. But I tell my apprentices, when you first go out, you're going to have a hard time if you're in Mississauga. You're going to have a real hard time.
Yeah.
Because, get away. Go to Hamilton. There's probably lots of money being made in Hamilton. Go up to North Brampton somewhere.
It's astounding because it's always, what was that, like 7 degrees of like Kevin Bacon?
7 degrees of separation.
Okay, but you know the thing with Kevin Bacon, like everybody's connected. It's same with you. Like everybody I talk to, doesn't matter where they or someone they know has trained their dog with you. Even myself, I bumped into a neighbor and he's like, you know what? I got a guy. We'll talk more about that later. Yeah. So now, what are some of the other things? Because I know that you did work with the Humane Society as well. What did you do there?
When I left Dave McMahon, it was a little bit different than what I do with my apprentices. Some of them recently learned by fire, like Steph and Claudia, because I was in the hospital and almost died. And
their souls.
They kind of learned by fire, which is kind of a good way to learn.
And Jen Broadbent as well. Like I've told her, and she needs.
Now, let's not get too far in that because we're going to run out of time, and that'll be another episode itself. The whole health and what happened to the school back then.
Yeah. Humane Society. Yeah.
I went to the Niagara Falls Humane Society and I just basically said, hi, I just graduated from Navy, man. I don't know. I knew how to train dogs, but I didn't know how to build a business. I didn't know how to get people.
Right.
And I still needed more experience because that's what this game is all about. The more experience you get, the more crazy dogs that you deal with and fix, the more you're going to know, okay, I've seen this before. Let's do the same thing I did with that dog.
Right.
So I went to the Niagara Falls Humane Society and I said, hey, I would like to do pro bono work. And I literally showed up there. At one point, it was almost every single morning. Yeah. And I would pick the one dog that had been there for 6-7 months, and they're having a hard time adopting them because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but they're not dumb. They don't just give a dog to anyone. They actually make you spend time with the dog. And a lot of times people come in and look at the cute dog behind the, he's a German Shepherd mix. I'm actually thinking of Steel, this one that I trained, and they bring him out and they make the person go for a walk because in Niagara Falls, they got a big field behind.
Right.
And some of the people are coming back like, no, fuck this dog.
Yeah.
I can't walk him. He's jumping on me. He's tackling me. So, and that's the reason they've been there so long. So those are the ones I'm saying, give me that one and let me train it. And here's the funny thing, because they're technically a non-profit organization, they weren't allowed to suggest me, but they did all the time. Not only did they suggest me, at one point, and my school was called Doggone Smart there, we had a link to the website. So they would have those pages where you see all the adoption dogs. And the one that I was doing had a colored circle around it. Aww. This one's being trained by Eric from Beyond the Leash. Click here to see his progress. And then you'd click there and you'd see videos from my website of everything I was doing, which was pretty cool. So I did that a lot. And that really, like I said, I was taking the tough cases. So you learn to deal with tough cases by hands-on experience.
Yeah. So then... did you want to touch on kind of, because you started out in Niagara Falls, somehow you ended up out here in Mississauga. Do you want to talk about that?
The marriage broke up and we lost everything. The whole school lost everything. The house, we lost everything. And I got some the mob and Godfather.
Yeah.
I thought I was out of the strip club. They sucked me back in.
Yeah.
So I end up going back to the club, and the owner loved me and gave me my job back like that in a second. So I was back there for a while, and that bar ended up closing. The owner kind of lost it. So I was kind of at I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what I'm going to do. And through the strip club closing, there was a guy that came down. His name is Mickey, passed away, God rest his soul, good friend of mine. He owned, because it's all connected, the strip clubs, all that seedy stuff is all intertwined. And when the bar in Niagara Falls closed down, they had a receivership there, and they bring people in to run the place, and I was still working for them. So I met this guy, Mickey, that I used to call Soprano. I bring him up in the school because he... Italian guy, lots of money, he had the rings, he had the change, short, chubby guy. He looked like he belonged in the movie Sopranos, or the show Sopranos. And he owned massage parlors here and not strip clubs. He didn't own strip clubs. Well, he did later on. But he owned a bunch of things. And he owned some really nice, classy restaurants as well.
It's funny because how worlds collide. I've eaten at two of his restaurants.
Before we even met.
He had great restaurants.
Alexandria's.
Yeah, and there was La Flamia.
Yeah, but that was called Alexandria's before.
Right.
It changed when they split up.
And he had another place that was just it was like a little hole in the wall over by Cawthra and Dundas.
That was actually the Burrito Boys.
Was it?
It became the Burrito Boys, the one, not Cawthra and
This
Dundas.
is going back.
Oh, no, you're talking about, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, he said, Eric, why don't you come work for me? I need somebody to work for me and run the place and you won't have any work. And because I told him I want to reopen my dog school. Mm-hmm. He goes, why don't you do it out there? There's more people. There's more, you got more opportunity out there. So I kind of followed him out here and just opened up here. That was it.
Yeah. So you were back to doing security. So quickly, let's just talk about your schedule.
I don't want to go too long because we got more to talk about. We're already at 28 minutes. Let's forget about that.
Yeah? Okay. So then let's fast forward past that. Yep. And then do we want to talk about how our worlds kind of collide?
Yes, because Melissa...
I touched on it a little bit before.
Melissa, Steph's probably what I would consider the second trainer here, but Melissa's second in command. Mm-hmm. And she's the second or third trainer, I guess. Actually, I think maybe even Lee surpassed you.
Yeah.
Because you got your classes, but you're going more into the retail end.
Yes.
But you're still boss here. But how me and Melissa met.
So let me get into that a little bit. I'll try. I can be long-winded, and people who know me know I talk a lot.
Oops, not that one. You talking about how we met? That was actually the better one.
Okay. Yes. So I acquired this dog. I just fell in love with the American Bulldog breed, and found a breeder. I'd like to have her on too at some point. She's an amazing breeder.
We'll have her on.
Yeah. Steph Gregson. She has Roper American Bulldogs and had to have this dog. But picked this dog purely based on looks, knew absolutely nothing about the breed, didn't do any research, just blindly chose this dog. Me and my ex-husband at the time, begged, I'm going to do everything with the dog. Da, da, da. We have 3 small kids. I think they were all under the age of 10, so it was a busy household. Anyway, so we get the dog almost immediately. As soon as the dog knows, they take like about 48 hours and they're like, wait a minute, I'm staying here. This is all mine. And then they really show their ass to you at
and
that
just to
point.
let you know, her American Bulldog had to hit 95 to 105 pounds for sure.
Yeah.
Big, powerful, big head, muscular.
Gorgeous boy, Jax. So I thought, I'm going to take this dog out for walks. It's going to be great. Me and the kids, blah, blah, blah. It was none of that. Very quickly, I realized I was in way over my head. This dog was very dominant. He was very strong, and I could not walk him. He was 4 months old, and he was pulling me all over the place.
Tell the story about Rohit.
Yeah, so we had this neighbor. He had a chocolate lab named Guru. And so my dog's dragging me down the street, and I encounter the neighbor, and Jax is jumping all over this guy, giving him a tongue bath. And I'm like, I'm so sorry.
You were apologizing to him all over.
I'm like, I'll admit.
Horse on him.
Yes, I have no control. So he's like, yeah, you know what? He goes, I got a guy. He goes, this is going to be, what did he say at the time? 12 weeks of your life, and it's going to change your life forever and your relationship with your dog. I was like, okay. So I slept on it a little bit longer, and I was like, nah, I think I can do this. And then within a couple of weeks, I texted him. I'm like, I need that guy's number right away. So I made the call, and I spoke to you for the first time, and I had always had dogs as well. My dad bred dogs, was really good with them.
This had to be about 8, 9 years ago going on?
More, it's 10 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah. So you invited us out to come watch a class, and
Beppe was young and amazing at the time.
Yep. So we came out, and I remember I literally had tears in my eyes. I was so amazed at what these dogs were doing, and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, sign me up. So I did, and I enrolled, and we started in the class, and I remember it was Sunday evenings. And Eric's great on the phone, very personable, funny, he's great. And then you start the training.
and from my eyes, I'm getting this, for those of you that know Melissa, she's a bit of a stunner. And
thank you.
This blonde girl showing up, and every week she's got a Mercedes one week. The next week she's got a BMW. Obviously, she's coming from a little bit of money in her home. And I'm thinking, this is going to be maybe a little bit harder to deal with than my average client.
Truth be told, even though, you tell us what's going to be required of us at the owner, in my head, I truly thought, no, I'm going to come here for 1 hour a week, and this guy's going to train my dog for me. And, for anybody who doesn't know your nickname, maybe we've discussed it before, he is the Gordon Ramsay of dog training. So what was happening is I was doing none of the homework. And by about week 3 or 4, I come into class with this dog, and Eric, now especially working with him and training, you can identify almost immediately when someone's not doing the work. It's just so obvious.
Here's another thing, that he was the dog, and anybody that's taken the class knows that heel class, I take a dog. Yeah. And this is the first time we used the collars, and I'm going to put, and I don't take an easy dog. I always take the one that looks the strongest and the biggest puller in the group.
Most difficult.
And in your class, it was between you and
Votto?
Votto, yes. Yeah. It was between you and Votto, and I went with you because he looked like he had a little more power over you than Votto had over her. She had a little more control of Votto. Yeah. So I took your dog, and he just became my bitch immediately.
Within minutes.
It was seconds.
Yeah.
And so then I give the dog back, and the first 3 weeks, I can see that this dog has potential out the ass. Like, he's so smart. He's going to learn fast. And I got this blonde woman that's got all this money apparently, and I knew goddamn well she was not doing the work.
Yeah. So Anyway, so it was on me to do all of the training, and I wasn't doing it.
Let me butt in here for a second. A lot of people, I'll pick on them. I'll pick on them. And they think I'm picking on them because I'm an ass or I don't like that person personally.
Yeah.
I pick on them because I see potential in their dog and I know damn well that they're not doing the work.
Yeah.
I know it.
So anyways.
That was your case.
Yeah. So we're in week 4, whatever. And this one particular class, Eric came for me. And everything I was doing was wrong. And he was like, he was centering me. And I thought, how dare you?
Did you not leave? You admitted to me that you left crying.
I called my husband at the time crying. I was like, this guy's the biggest asshole ever. I'm like, he picked on me the entire time. My God.
I was just going to say, what was your opinion of me in weeks 1, 2,
I thought
and 3?
he giant asshole, maybe the world's biggest asshole.
And I do that, but it's for the benefit of the dog because I know if I can't get the person on board, it's never going to work.
Yeah.
No matter how potential the dog has, if the owner's not going to get on board with the system, it's not going to work.
Right. So that particular week I went home and I thought, you know what, just to spite this guy, I'm going to do the work. So I did the work, and you know what? By the next week, once the class got moving, right away, you're like, wow, like what an improvement in just 1 week. And I'm like, I've been doing my homework.
What was the score on the final? The scores in the school are out of 200. You got to take a test at the end.
I think he ended up getting like 197 or 198. Still to this day.
I thought it was 198, I think.
He's incredible.
And he did win top dog award.
Most
improved dog award. Yeah, I knew he won one of them.
And you know what? I have to just say this side note, like for me as a woman in particular, like maybe there hasn't been a ton of relationships that you've had that you have been the boss. And so this is one of those times I got to really dig deep, and I felt like the baddest ass bitch by the end of that.
And yet it really is empowering to a person to take this dog.
It was a huge accomplishment.
Take this dog that you have zero control over, and now he's perfect with you. And he still shows up to classes. People that come to the classes, he still shows up to an intermediate here and there.
Yeah.
It's like he's never missed a beat.
He's amazing. He's an angel.
And just a side note here, because maybe people are wondering, there was when we met, I actually had a girlfriend at the time. So this was just a girl and she was married.
Yes.
So it wasn't like there was any sparks there. Nothing like that ever happened.
Yeah.
We met a few years later, just happened to bump into each other, and she was single and I was single. So that's kind of how it worked. And we just started talking about Jax and the dog and blah, blah, blah. And that led to a few texts, and then here we are.
Yeah.
Wasn't that a big mistake on your end?
No, you know what? It's incredible how things work out. And we've been together ever since.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, again, some people are going to think I'm a little. I'm just going to say this. There was a dog that was barking so much in a recent class.
Yeah.
I had to kick the dog out after 10 minutes. I was like, you get out of here. You're leaving. Go talk to Melissa. She's going to teach you up front.
And I have to say, for people who haven't been in class with Eric, his interpersonal skills, maybe could use a little bit of polishing, but
they're actually what you need to do. I've been doing this too long. You can't sugarcoat things.
And he does it.
You can't
he
hold
shoots from
people's
the
hands.
hips. Yeah.
Or they'll just step all over you. And Jen learned that real quick. We'll talk to Jen about that when she's on the show.
Yeah. So you kicked this woman out with her dog.
But Melissa admitted to me, and even the woman, she goes, "Is he always that much of a fucking asshole?"
Yeah.
or something
and I'm
like
oh,
or is that rude?
Yeah. So I pulled her aside. I'm like, listen, I go, don't feel special, honey. I'm like, he talks to everybody. She's like, trust me, I don't feel special.
But here's the best thing. We had this dog needed a bark collar. I said, you're not coming back without one. The dog has been an angel for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
She's doing great.
And she's doing great. So people don't like me at the beginning, but I'm doing things for the benefit of the dog.
Yeah. And again, like by the time I finished all of this up, aside from having my kids, training that dog into the dog that he became was one of my biggest accomplishments. Still to this day, I'm so proud.
It's such especially when it's one thing to take a dog that's pretty easy.
Yeah.
It's another thing to take a dog that's ruining your life like Marmaduke
and
the cartoon.
That actually passed my mind. I was like, oh, gee, what have I done here? I begged and bitched and moaned for this dog, and I'm like, I don't know that this is going to work.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to talk about this because we were trying to talk about how Eric became a dog trainer, and Melissa obviously became a dog trainer because she got with me and she loved it so much. She just started hanging out at the school, and she's seen Even before you were really interested in training a dog, you probably knew so much just from sitting in on the classes.
I did. And you know what, just from taking that course, even, yes, my profession by trade or whatever, my first love was makeup artistry. But even when we did an icebreaker and they asked, like, what would you be if you weren't doing makeup? And I'm like, I think I'd be a dog trainer. It's a pretty cool job. And again, like you said, helping people and changing lives, making them better for dogs and humans is amazing.
Yeah, it's rewarding.
Yeah.
Again, and like we were saying, you can look at me. You can look at my reviews. I got more reviews than most dogs in Ontario, at least, like exponentially more reviews.
Yeah.
And I think I'm at like 210, something like that. Other dog trainers like 30, 50. I'm at like 210. And out of those 210, there's 33 reviews that hate my fucking guts and are talking to me like I'm evil. And I'm sure some of those reviews are fake because it's just a client that wasn't happy I didn't give their money back or something or whatever. But 275 of them are praising me like, thank you. I was going to get rid of my dog if it wasn't for you, stuff like that.
Right.
So the last thing we're going to talk about, just because we got a few minutes left, is because we're talking about how I became a dog trainer. For those of you that are in the school, I'm always I have other full trainers now that were apprentices under me. Again, Jen Broadbent owns her own dog training school in Burlington. She's doing fantastic. She learned under me about 3 or 4 years ago. And we have a couple apprentices. I actually have a couple new ones starting on board right now.
Our family's growing.
Yeah. So if anybody out there is thinking about becoming a dog trainer, I do take people on. Now, this is not... I just accept anybody by coming and giving me some money. That does not happen.
Let's talk about that because we do spend a lot of time together here with our apprentices.
Yeah, well, the whole idea is if I'm going to spend a year and a half with somebody, possibly 2 years, because there's no timeline for the apprenticeship. It's just you kind of get here. If you're here 5 days a week, obviously you're going to finish a lot more if you're here 2 or 3 days a week.
Right.
Just kind of, it's not about time. It's about time in here, not calendar time. And I just can't, not only if someone was interested, not only do I got to be a right guy for them, they got to be the right person for me, because I'm not going to butt heads. I'm not going to work with somebody that's going to go against everything I'm saying.
Would you say that person needs to be coachable?
Coachable, that's another show. That's a whole other show again. We're talking about coachable people. That's clients and apprentices as well. So if anybody's interested in that, you can give me or Melissa a call. Again, I don't just take anybody. And since we're on that line, just to let people know, this is the one thing that makes people's jaw hit the floor. What people don't understand about this industry, at least in Ontario, is it's what's considered a 100% deregulated industry.
This always blows my mind.
Deregulated. So you can get your average Joe. I can find our neighbor next door that has those 2 little yappy dogs. He's not very good with dogs. He's our next door neighbor. And I could take him tomorrow, and there's a place to go in Brampton where you get a business license. Mm-hmm. It's the Ontario whatever, or federal, I don't know whatever it is, but I went there, and it's a $60 business license. It might have been up since I last did it, but that doesn't matter if you're a retail store, restaurant, whatever, you need a business license. And you could go there and get a business license for $60. You can go on Wix and build your own templated website that's free. And if I help someone with that, I could probably pick some pretty good cheating pictures from the internet and put them on there, and boom, you're a dog trainer that day.
Just like that.
That day.
You're in business.
So there's a lot of bad dog trainers out there, and everybody says, why do you train these trainers to become dog trainers? Just like David McMahon. Why would you create more competition for yourself? First off, all my apprentices, I encourage them to become their own dog, get their own style. Learn from me, but then make it your own.
Right.
Because that's what I did with Dave. I don't want to say completely different than Dave. The meat and potatoes are there, but I'm a lot different than Dave is.
You give them the skeleton, basically.
Yes. But at a point there, I just lost it.
So they make it their own. Dave McMahon.
I can't remember what I was going to say there. But anybody can be a dog trainer, but you need to get some kind of foundation, some kind of basis. Base it off what I teach you, and then make it your own. That's the whole point.
Right. And even somebody like Jen, why can I not say her name tonight? Jen she's
Broadbent?
really, huskies are her thing. Right? That's her wheelhouse.
Yep.
She really specializes in huskies. And
Sometimes I get people with huskies, don't I?
and you're like, you know what? I got somebody for you.
Somebody that loves the huskies
Yes.
and all the problems they come with and the
Yeah.
talking and everything.
Yeah.
So that was podcast number 3.
Mm-hmm.
We shouldn't be saying that anymore because we're going to try and we might alter when we release them.
Right.
So maybe,
So drop the whole number thing,
Well,
Straetmans.
yeah, this is podcast number 3. Well, this one will come out third
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And they're going to drop every Tuesday. We've already discussed it with our social media expert, Paul, which is
I would like
amazing.
to, in another time, get into, I think it's just inspirational the number of setbacks you've had career-wise. And
Oh, that's a
personal.
whole other show. We don't
Yeah.
have to talk about that now. Those are
I'd
these
like
are
to
all
dig
other
deeper
shows. So
into
some of us are going to help you with tips for dog training. Some of us are going to have not even dog training, but people in the dog industry.
Right.
We're going to have some guests in here where the whole conversation, we might bring a groomer in here and the whole
Yeah.
conversation will be about the grooming industry.
Right.
We might bring a vet in here.
Yeah.
And the whole
Maybe.
thing.
How do you feel about opening this up to our audience and having them
Well,
suggest some
that's the
topics
idea.
even?
What you, I don't even know if you don't understand this yet. These are going to be the free podcasts, and then we're going
Right.
to have a group that will have podcasts where you can call in, ask questions, where you get bonus work. You might get access to a camera. And
Right.
so there's going to be a lot of things that this is going to.
Exciting things happening.
And we already had somebody from, we just sent it today, which is the whole point of this podcast is because I got a lot of people calling me from Florida, from my YouTube channel, Australia. I had people, England, and we just had somebody today sent us, they're in Calgary.
Edmonton.
Edmonton,
Edmonton,
sorry, Edmonton. And they sent us a video of them listening to the podcast, the first one, we only got one out, in their car,
yeah.
and they sent it to us. Thank you for the podcast. This has
How
been really
cool is
helpful, which is the
that?
whole
So
reason
cool.
why we did this.
Amazing.
Okay, so that's podcast number 3. We're going to stop calling them numbers eventually, but then that's podcast number 3.
Thanks
Hope
for
you had a
listening.
good time. Thank you, Melissa, for being almost my interviewer today. It was a lot about me, and hopefully people weren't bored about my story, but it's kind of interesting.
It's pretty juicy.
Okay, we'll see you guys on the next podcast.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Beyond the Leash podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode and follow on all social media platforms. For more information or to connect with Eric and Melissa, check us out at beyondtheleash.ca. We'll see you next time.